Suspect behind. Now, this is so sickening. Here you have this white female, Iryna Zarutska from Ukraine. She flees the war in Ukraine to come to the United States, a war zone, to come to the United States, and is murdered in the most bestial, monstrous, anti-white way while working for a living. The suspect behind a fatal stab. And yeah, let's look at this for a second. This is all about race, her race. If you got that question wrong, then it's all right. You can go right. If you went wrong in the past, you can go right now. It's all about race, her race, our race, our daughters being butchered, stabbed in the fucking chest and throat. I can't. And this group is going to be getting together to talk about the same old shit. How many more? How many more have to clutch at their throat and the geyser of blood? How many more? I can't even, The suspect behind the fatal stabbing in a North Carolina train, which left a Ukrainian woman dead, was there, and that's just making it so just simple, complete, just dead. She's dead. You mean she struggled for her life as the ice cold pain and fear washed through every fiber of her being? Is that what you mean? Seeing the life shoot out of her neck. Is that what you mean? Let's talk about another think tank. God damn it. There is nothing out there for us. There is nothing. One person talk about blacks in front of me, and I will rearrange your fucking mouth. I am so sick of this shit. I am so sick of watching our people, our daughters, our sons, anally raped in Canada by some anti-white monster, and then the police chief saying, comply. So sick of watching them sit down after a long shift, working as a waitress, and then stabbed in the chest and throat for being white. You want to talk to me about blacks are bad? What else will be bad is when you wake up in the hospital and you say, oh, what happened? Well, we're sorry, sir. You're undergoing facial reconstructive surgery because you complained again about rather than talking about remedies for what's happening for the white race to a man of the West. That's what happened. So the anti-white monster arrested and charged with first-degree murder. DeCarlos Brown, piece of shit, was reportedly arrested and charged with first-degree murder. And I'm not even, the anger I have, this is just another anti-white to me. This is where you need to be. The whole white race around the world. This is just another anti-white. Just another anti-white victimizing us. Your rage should be directed at those who purport to be for white well-being, pro-white, and who have nothing to do with that which has actually produced results. That's who your anger should be with. Now, it can be in the schmuck sphere. It can be in the cuck sphere. But that's where your real rage should target. That's where it should be focused. Iryna Zarutska, just 23 years old, stabbed in the throat while riding the Charlotte light rail. So Charlotte, not the inner city of Miami, Chicago, Los Angeles, Charlotte. Per the outlet, recently released footage shows the moments leading up to and following the stabbing. I see these people on Twitter, and they're like, you should see the full video. You should see the gruesome gore of this white female being stabbed to death, and then not giving any direction to white well-being. Just, you know what that does to you? Do you know what that does to you? If you instigate that sort of anger and stress hormone release in your body without an avenue to do something productive with it, it eats you alive. It absolutely eats you alive. I have watched what feels like countless people come into the white sympathetic sphere, get outraged by this sort of crime, this sort of anti-white bestiality, just monstrous behavior, bestial behavior, and then say, I can't take it, I've got to leave. Why can't you take it? Because you don't have an avenue to address it that works. They're doing that on those accounts to grow their accounts for themselves. That's why they're doing it. That's why they want to put the hideousness of this attack, the monstrousness of it, up on their accounts. That's why they talk about it at all. If they're not directing you to the thing that has benefited white people, all they're doing is shilling for themselves. You all will remember this. I pray to God, I feel in my bones and with my efforts that we're recapturing our destiny. But I'm going to tell you what, this is going to be a painful memory if this anti-whiteism finds you and your loved ones when you were indulging, just getting angry, hating, just walking around and hating some group of people. That's going to be one painful ass memory. Should have listened to the No White Guilt guy. Brown is seen sitting behind her on the train. She enters and sits down in front of him, which our women should know. Our girls should know. Our guys should know. Do not turn your backs to any non-white people. You are hated. You are despised. Why didn't your parents tell you? Because they're not being taught to love themselves. They're not being taught to love our people. They're not being taught that we are preyed upon by anti-whites. That's why. If anything, their fathers, maybe their mothers, are saying, well, you got to watch out for the inners. Then they go out in the world and they think, well, that's been the problem all along. I'll demonstrate that I'm not one of those awful people that think that way. And I'll intentionally put my back to them. The clip shows the stabbing, and then this Brown, this anti-white terrorist monster, wanders around the train with his butcher knife. And it's ungodly how much of her life is spilling from the blade as he walks the train. He attacks her within minutes. As she sits down after her long shift and begins looking at her phone, she's tiny. This woman is tiny. She weighs nothing. She was killed. She was murdered because she was white. And our successes in this community, reaching out in love, hope, and redemption to our brothers and sisters, influencing the people who should not have been among the schmucks and drawing them out and bringing them over here and influencing the cucks and what they think. Your work is why Benny Johnson called this out as a racial attack on the most persecuted race. Yeah, you heard me right. We're going to listen to that video in just a minute. No one else has done this. Heather McDonald, an actual intellectual, one of the few females of high caliber intelligence, and that can actually have these conversations in the highest echelons, the most erudite and urbane of conservative or patriotic talk, has picked up anti-whiteism because of us. And you want to talk about all the fresh new people and the fresh new ideas that the backers can cut checks for. Fucking sickening. What a joke. Lyles continued to express that it was a senseless and tragic loss. There was nothing senseless about it. It was targeted, anti-white, race-based. Even Benny Johnson. So, what does this mean? I mean, you have, I think a lot of people have said, that she flees Ukraine, war-torn country, to come to the United States and ends up dead. That's true. Ends up dead by what? Anti-whiteism. But what else is there about this? Why aren't there marches? Why aren't there thousands of people filling the streets? Benny Johnson even asked the question. I'll answer it now. Because to white people, white lives don't matter. You have a gruesome, sadistic murder like this, and white people shrug. Of one of our daughters, they shrug. At least it wasn't mine. That's the problem. To white people, white lives don't matter. You really think you're going to build a party or build a media empire? I'm sure that'll be also one of the other. I mentioned Webzine, but maybe there'll be other such talk at this meeting, this conference that's coming up, of uselessness. But the problem is that white people, white lives don't matter. The only way that you can engender this in them is the tools that we use here. That's it. So that they see their individual well-being by way of our people's well-being. That's it. And we've demonstrated that it works for years and years and years. As a white person today, you can't go to your shitty blue-collar job or even low-paying white-collar job and get on a train to go home and not get butchered. What does this do to all of us living this life? What does it do to every moment of our existence? The only one we get. We've got to go work these miserable jobs that we're overqualified for. We've paid our dues for better jobs, but we're going to be kept out because of anti-whiteism. We got to trudge through the early morning traffic to get to these miserable shit jobs. We have to worry the entire time that as at work, walking on eggshells, that we don't get seen as not being anti-white enough, that we don't have a coworker overhear something that isn't anti-white enough or can't be reinterpreted to be something. Every breath of our lives. You're at work, you got to make a doctor's appointment, you get on the phone, and you get some sort of pre-recorded garbage that used to be able 10 years ago understand everything you said. But now, since it incorporates the multiplicity of accents speaking English, and poor English speakers from all around the non-white world, it can't understand shit you say. More detriment to our existence, more unhappiness. And then you finally get on the phone with somebody, and it's going to be some entitled, anti-white, non-white bitch that's not going to want to help you, that's going to be totally incompetent, that's going to be on the verge of hanging up on you. Then you've got to go for the anti-white obedience training at work. And you've got to endure the indignity of the anti-whiteism being taught there about how everything in your life is so good. And we have to concern ourselves with all of these non-white people and women and people who don't know what sex they are and obese people. And look at all the horrible things that you've done. And the boss squinting at you all the time with the pressure on him or her to get rid of you and replace you with one or any group out there. You endure that all day long at work, only so that when you get off work, you can head on over to a filthy subway train that should be nirvanic if our society was 90 plus or 100% white in some of our European countries, would be gleaming like the dawn of time. Instead, you walk up to this spray-painted, tagged by gangs from Venezuela and Mexico and etc. that hate you. You climb aboard this filthy thing that barely runs on time, not by way of the anti-white, incompetent non-whites that they put out there, but they've had white men come in after the fact because the trains couldn't run on time anymore and make it all digital so that you had a white guys running it on time. Then they were white erased from their jobs to be replaced by incompetent anti-white non-whites. And then white men come back and make it digital. So now you just got somebody in a welfare job, non-white, sitting at the front of the train, reading a book, or not even that, of course, texts, listening to Cardi B on their phone as the train chugs down the tracks by way of the white man's tech. And you sit down on this filthy subway behind some actual animal, anti-white animal, who decides in the blink of an eye that you are white and you need to die. And the next thing you know, in deep confusion, you're clutching at those points of pain in your chest and throat, and you have no idea where they've come from. You have no idea what's going on. You have finally been able to escape into your own thoughts after that miserable day at work. And then you see the geyser of that deep red, crimson, frothing blood shooting from your neck. and you have seconds left of life. Every day for the white race. This is what we live like. This can't go on. White people will suffer this miserably. They will live in this kind of misery. They will develop systems. Hell, it's been decades since those electrified jackets were invented for women. You remember those? The jackets that could deliver a significant jolt of electricity to an attacker. The scarves that were made out of Kevlar so that a knife couldn't just stab or slash right easily through it. In South Africa, the new device invented by white people that goes inside of a woman and has spikes to stop the rapes. Oh, white people will put up with it. We'll live with it all the way to the bitter end. A little creative this, a little creative that. 2 decades since white people invented those flamethrowers that shoot fire out the side of a car for attackers in South Africa. White people will live with it. There's no amount of suffering. There's no amount of your life being made miserable. Your towns are white erased. Your police departments are white erased. They're wearing Islamic patches in Michigan. Islamic entire communities being built. Beautiful communities. Gigantic upper end of middle class. Beautiful McMansion homes, all owned by Indians in Texas, in Virginia, in California, in Washington state. Everywhere you turn. Wealthy, anti-white, non-whites at one end. Violent, poor, anti-white, non-whites at the other end. And white people just keep coming up with excuses. They keep inventing little knickknacks. They keep holding these classes. I see them all the time. Classes in self-defense. They're trying to teach these. Do you really think that Zarutska could have defended herself? Even if she saw him coming. She could not have defended. No amount of training could have protected her. It happened far too fast and from behind for a sidearm or mace or any of that to have been of use. And these little socialized networks across the West of, we will stick together in this little area here and we'll teach everybody, especially our based black and our based Hispanics, how to defend themselves. And we'll get you all interested in guns, because that's all the white race, that's all America needs. Get you interested in some guns. Put up an American flag with an eagle on it. The only remedy is go free. Maybe there'll be something else in the future, but there's nothing else yet. But let's see the success that this community is having, the influence, and big salute on everybody swashing on Benny Johnson, everybody that has swashed on Benny Johnson over the years. Epic success, and the overall pressure that we have put on conservative content creators to talk about the white race, that we're being victimized as a people on the basis of our birth.
Look at all these arrests. Like after this arrest right here, then that means like 30 years in a hard labor camp. That's what our ancestors used to do. That's exactly right. Walsh is exactly right. 14 times arrested and let go. I beg them to let him out just one more time.
So 14. So here you have somebody, a LARPing bitch. He's not going free. He said, I beg him to let him out, because you will do what? Nothing, right? Nothing. You'll do nothing. Now, why is this guy arrested that many times and released? White erasure of our norms. Our norms. in policing and justice. If you don't own them, it's tragedy of the commons.
There's some good old boys in South Carolina that want to talk to him. Yeah, well, unfortunately, there's not a Daniel Penny on every train. This is 1,000 times worse than what happened to George Floyd. That's exactly right. You're just sitting there minding her own business. She had no interaction with him whatsoever. The two didn't know each other. What compelled him to murder her? Well, we all know. We all know exactly what it was. We all know exactly what it was. She's a member of a group of people who are the most systematically oppressed and the single most systematically targeted and attacked group of people in the world.
You're welcome, white race. You're welcome to everybody who will be attending that conference. You were welcome. Tell me again how complaining about Jews and blacks and saying that the white race needs to be national socialist and all of this nonsense contributes to what we did here. Tell me how it wasn't this community. Tell me again how, even though with all of your arguments, you never got conservatives to talk like this before this community, that now magically it's not the work of this community, but it's you all.
It is totally and completely permissible for this to happen. There won't be any outrage. There won't be any marches. There'll be nothing.
And I just told you why. Because white lives don't matter to white people.
The Ukrainian refugee flees the U.S., boards a train in Charlotte, North Carolina, sits down and is killed from behind for no apparent reason. And he's allowed to wander around with blood dripping from him. White supremacy is the number one threat.
Not no apparent reason. It's obvious. And Pam Bondi should be filing charges against this anti-white bastard. If the white race were worth a shit, there would be enough income here, there would be enough support of the work we're doing here, that we could make lots of noise at Pam Bondi over this and then get some charges, some federal charges for this animal.
Facing America, says Joe Biden. Yeah, okay. Then we get videos like this like once a week. Ukrainian refugees in the West stabbed to death, raped in Libya by a Libyan asylum seeker in Paris. 16-year-old Ukrainian girl pushed in front of a train by an Iraqi asylum seeker in Germany, died from her wounds. There's a reason why so many Ukrainian women decided to remain in Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Lithuania. That's exactly right. Career criminal, bouncing in and out of jail like a revolving door. Why would we let low-life scumbags like this on our street? Homelessness.
We would have executed him a long time ago if our norms would have been white erased. Here, Benny says that homelessness should be made illegal, but let's talk, Benny. Homelessness is not the problem.
Must be illegal. Homelessness must be illegal. That's the only recourse. They just did this in Washington, D.C. You're not allowed to be homeless in D.C. You're not allowed to live in a tent.
Guess what? They're now living in tents in Virginia and Maryland.
On the street. This is what it creates. Documented history of multiple arrests dating back. Roaming the streets is infuriating. Why was he allowed to roam the streets? Why was he allowed to roam the streets? Why? Again, there's the breakdown, like Ukrainian refugees being attacked and stabbed, like almost by something that is more dangerous than the war in Ukraine, for sure. Goodness, it's raging. Zero riots, zero looting, zero outrage, zero protest, and maybe that's a bad thing.
So you see that content creator, Benny's saying maybe that's a bad thing. This, I mean, therefore I am.
Raging.
This is just is he telling people about the remedy? Is he telling people what's working? Is he saying, hey, the go free? Because just to do this just gets him more views, gets him more shares, gets him more likes.
Zero riots, zero looting, zero outrage, zero protest, and maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe there should be some protest, right? These people should start like talking about this stuff. It's beyond ridiculous. This monster.
Yeah, Benny, we can talk with me. We can talk about this. I've been doing this for 3 decades. We can absolutely talk about this.
Not been permanently locked up. The state is responsible for her death. That's right. That's exactly right. It's always described as a senseless attack instead of what it really.
That was I am yes, friend of the community. Big salute to him.
is a premeditated hate crime against the single most systematically targeted and dehumanized population on the.
Back it up. This is Benny Johnson's tweet. Always described as a senseless attack instead of what it really is. A premeditated crime against the single most systematically targeted, dehumanized population on the planet, the white race. He didn't say the white race there, but it said.
It was described as a senseless attack instead of what it really is, a premeditated hate crime against the single most systematically targeted and dehumanized population on the planet. It's racial barbarism. Weak men created this hell. And
racial barbarism, he said. He is this close.
Strong men must fix it. Yeah, this wasn't random. This was preventable. It's a war on white people. Her blood is on the hands of.
You're not going to find stronger men than the men in the West, the men of the West in this community. This is it. Violent does not mean strong.
System that lets violent criminals roam while innocent people pay the price. All of society is terrorized. Jesse Smollett's fake hate crime drew more media outrage than this. That's exactly correct.
All of these comparisons are just to get attention for the content creators. I mean, those who swash in the community here, I mean, you could take note. You just draw a comparison like this to get white people to say, well, look at the double standard. And then you chalk it full of the lexicon.
It's so enraging that the leaders of Charlotte now, the mayors of Charlotte, the feckless mayors of Charlotte are just like saying, oh, well, nothing to see here. This is the banger right here. Our society is held hostage by a teeny minority of violent antisocial degenerates.
They're anti-white, Matt Walsh.
Makes it all the more infuriating is that it doesn't have to be like this. We could have all of those criminals off the street permanently in the span of a few weeks if we just had the will. Time for the will.
Time for the will. We have the tools to do it. Time to talk with us, Benny. Big difference between what you see here and what you see elsewhere. We just talked about Iryna Zarutska's horrific murder by an anti-white monster. And there are other people talking about it too. I mean, I even saw Daniel Köhne get 1.5 million views and growing on one of his comments. Look at the double standard type tweets. The difference here is that we have the way out. We have the remedy. So when I talk about Iryna's murder, it is so that her life won't be in vain. I talk about her murder to put an end to the victimization of Western kind with the tools that have demonstrated they work. That's why I talk about it. That's why you talk about it. There's a big difference. It's night and day otherwise.